Welcome, friends, to another episode of Easier Ways. My name is Randy, and this is my friend Cheryle Gail. And this is a really special interview conversation tonight because this woman I met in 7th grade, junior high. We weren't
on the
best friends.
stoner's bench.
Yeah. So we weren't really best friends, but we shared a J or two together, or bumped a cigarette off of each other and stuff. During those important years of that 13, 14-year-old phase, our paths kind of coincided for a little bit, and then life happened. And I lost track of her. Again, you'll get to see a picture of us on 8th grade graduation. So again, she's someone every now and then kind of wondered whatever happened to her. And then by fate or kismet or God, the universe, whatever it was, she did a post with a mutual friend and happened to be this picture you will see from her 8th grade graduation. And it was like, oh my God. I can't believe after all these years, almost 40 years, actually more than 40 years. I get to be reminded of something that, was memorable. And we get reacquainted. And as I get reacquainted, I'm like, this person's pretty cool. She's had an amazing life. She's overcome some incredible obstacles, if that's the right word. I don't know. I'll let you decide for that. But again, I am so happy to introduce you to my friend Cheryle Gail. I hope I didn't sell it too hard, but thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Randy. I'm just tickled pink to be here. I think that's the synchronistic unfolding of life and how we were brought back together is just miraculous. And I'm honored to get to participate in this way with you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess we can kind of start off with junior high developmental years. Was listening to an interview that she had done of a life event that affected her, well, still to some degree to this day, right?
Sure, always, absolutely. Yeah.
But this is one of the things that I'm so inspired by her. She is so courageous. She's so brave to talk about things that are not easy to talk about. So that being set up, so what happened to, what was it, about 6th grade, if I remember right?
Yep. Harmed sexually twice by one of my brothers, Doug Barton. I will name him because I wouldn't want him to be confused with my brother Michael. Not too long ago, I learned he was sexually harmed by our neighbor across the street. And childhood sexual abuse is a cycle, and it's silence that perpetuates the cycle. So thank goodness from years and years and years and years and years, all of my adult years, I started getting help when I was 17, and I'm now 58. So it's a lot of life of learning from every opportunity. And but prior to that, I had no conscious memories of the sexual harm until I had my daughter. And then when her father would give her a bath or change her diapers, I just got sick inside my gut. My whole core of my being was just knots. And I couldn't stop myself from going and seeing what he was doing. And I use the word paranoid because I was paranoid. I could not stop worrying that something, her father or any other male, but it was mostly my husband at the time, would harm her. And finally he said, "You are sick. Why would I harm my own daughter?" And I went and sought help and started therapy at that point. At that point, I was maybe 18 and a half. My daughter was 3 months old on my 18th birthday. So, yeah, I've just been on a healing quest ever since. And it's been a challenge. Some of the things that were most helpful for me was the group radiance breath work, also known as holotropic breath work. And one afternoon of that was more healing for me than years and years and years of talk therapy. So I'm a believer that there's a thousand ways to Rome, and we all are going to get to Rome by different routes. And because I'm a very physical being, I've been a massage therapist for 34 years, and I learn by doing. I learn, and I'm very creative. So I have to touch it, and I have to move my body. Um, so for me, breathing in and exhaling in the very specific way that the breath work teaches, it it pulls out all of the things that are stuck inside of us, right? Because as you know, we fight, flight, freeze. And when we don't fight and we don't run, it's lodged inside of us. And so the breathing, and there's no way to control our brain. Whatever comes out, comes out. So, anyways, I highly recommend anybody to go get deep, deep breath work with a very experienced person. So that it took me a year to go back after my first session because it scared the friggin' poop out of me. It was so powerful. Yeah, I also in that session, at one point, the facilitator was over me, and I was able to lash out. And it was both the harm from my brother fighting him off and the physical, emotional, and verbal abuse of my father as well. And so it was, yeah, I just don't know how to describe it other than expelling it, getting it out of me, getting to fight that I didn't get to do in both the circumstances of growing up under an abusive father and the sexual harm. So that was one thing, and I could just go on and on and on with all the different ways. Would you like me to give you a few more?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. So that was one of the. I mean, I was doing one-on-one talk therapy. I was doing group therapy, but it was the breath work that was the first absolute most powerful. Um, and then Fred Luskin is from Stanford. He's got several books. One is Forgive for Good. And I did one of his very, very first classes at Stanford. And I argued with him a lot because I said, you are just teaching us mind control, because his whole idea was when I call it spiraling down, when our brain starts eating at something, and before we know it, we're just down into this muck and this horridness and this negativity, right? I could have been in there for days and days and days when I first started learning this, but what he teaches us is to catch our brain and think of something that makes us smile, something that lights us up, to change that. And it took years and years, but then I could catch it maybe only after an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. So, and now I'm pretty good at it, but his work is phenomenal. And so Fred Luskin, one of his books is Forgive for Good. That was very helpful for me. And I was part of a meditation group with a group of women who, without their love and support and weekly, as a self-employed massage therapist, right? I don't have I don't have a team of people that I work with, right? Like I've got a friend who's a teacher, and they have deep, deep friendships, and they've got each other's backs. And so for me, creating circles of for me, I love men, but for me, it's vital to be with other women so that I can, there's just a different depth of sharing that's, and connection and hearing each other, right? As soon as men and women are combined together, my observation is that the dynamics are changed. And so there's times to be with men and women. But for me, gatherings of women with the intention of intimacy and closeness and trust and sharing is vital. It's something that I have to create. Um, I think a lot of people used to get that by going to church or spiritual centers. Um, and maybe it used to be from families, when we lived communally and we had grandmas and moms and sisters and sister-in-laws, but we just don't live that way anymore. And so for me, isolation doesn't work. I need to know somebody else has got my back, and I need to. For me, sitting and in meditation is not as good for me as walking. So I'll choose to one-on-one girlfriends to go for a walk, and we just download, and everything is okay. We can talk about anything, and we just listen to the other, and we don't try to solve their problems. We don't come up with strategies unless they ask for that, but we just reflect back to each other what we're hearing. And in my meditation group, we all stated an intention, right? And we, there might be somebody who was a Christian and somebody who was, just all these diverse peoples, and diversity of maybe one person's depressed and the other one's over the moon in love with somebody, and another one's brother just committed suicide, and yet we could deep down be with and present and show up for each of those people wherever they're at. So we were supported and we were held and accepted for who we are, where we were at in the moment, no matter, where that was. And so, I truly believe that who I am can be attributed to, and I happen to be the youngest of the group. They were all, many of them are gone now, but I just learned from their wise years, and um, was introduced to so much that, um, elders, right? We can learn a lot from elders if we're open to it. And um, yeah, and so that that was all. The meditation was a big part of my life, and it wasn't just sitting in silence. Blah, we made sounds. I called it vomiting, right? And I encourage this for anybody. Do it in the shower. Do it when you're driving in traffic. And again, 1,000 ways to Rome, right? That may just me saying this may scare the poop out of people, and this is a freak. I don't want anything. I don't want to listen to this. But for those of us who want to get out stress and tension, and I don't want to hold it in my neck and shoulders and my neck, I want to release it. And because we don't always say, fuck you, asshole, in the moment, it's going to lodge inside of us. So anyways, we sat around in a group, all of us making all these sounds until we got it out, and it was a purification. My eyes would water. It was a release. It was a physical release. And anyways, I had a boyfriend at the time who would say, hey, Cheryle, have you not made it to meditation for a while? I'm guessing you want to prioritize that. It was his sweet way of, you're a bitch right now, and I think you need to get down there and clear yourself out. Right. So we all need different ways to release our tension and anger and frustration and fears. And I found that super useful for me, in the love and connection of being with other women. So really just massive gratitude for all of the time with all of those women. So those are just a few. I've also done, oh my gosh, samurai warrior games. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. Yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. If you ever get an opportunity to do samurai, I learned there that there are fates worse than death.
Hmm.
And yeah, just anyways, I think that's probably enough right now of
Oh no, yeah, that's again, again, hearing you talk about, yeah, very much more than one road to Rome,
yeah,
and Rome being a place where what you're demonstrating right now, going through again something I don't even know, adversity, tragedy, just
life.
well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, the
we're
harder
talking
parts
before
of
our
life.
recording that everybody has moments that have affected them greatly. But yeah, going through something that basically would want to, well, there's many responses, but basically, again, a complete lack of trust of others, anger and revenge, and all those intense feelings that,
Hmm.
again, as you mentioned, it wasn't until the birth of your daughter, again, there was a lot of stuff that had been repressed. So
Yeah.
going through modalities, different modalities, and getting to the point where naturally might be the word and stuff, that again, when the time was right, this energy manifested, and you were able to have some type of regulation because you were in the group of whether it's professionals or peers, to allow it to come out in a way that was therapeutic.
Hmm.
And again, Rome being somewhere, again, what we're your our listeners, our friends are hearing right now is somebody that can talk about something that is not typically talked about and discussed about.
Yeah,
But
and for me,
and no one has to talk about it until they're ready, as I also want to say, if anybody's listening this here. But if
absolutely.
you do have, again, it doesn't necessarily need to be this big T trauma of sexual abuse. It can be just some type of energy that needs to be released. Again, you had a moment when you probably should have told somebody to fuck off and die. But of course, it wasn't appropriate. And again, we're not encouraging people to start telling people to fuck off and die.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
but that energy stays with us. And again, there is a healthy way for us to process it so it doesn't come out sideways sometime when you do
yeah.
start getting confrontations with people. It may not necessarily be that particular individual, that particular moment of what's coming out. It's the repressed stuff that
Hmm.
you're being reminded of the time.
Yeah,
And yeah, the next thing, everything comes out in a way that, well, there's an emotional hangover. It's like, what did I say? What did I do? And
yeah.
it gets really complicated. It's really messy unless we do these things that kind of relieve the pressure, so
Hmm.
we can be a little more present, a little more mindful. And meditation, yeah, and in meditation, yeah, the energy of a group of people that you can trust. You
Yeah,
learn to be safe again, even
yeah,
though these were not men. Again, it naturally would be easier to begin with
yeah,
women.
yeah,
But as you
yeah,
said earlier, you love men as well too. You're
yeah.
in a position now. Excuse me for being presumptuous, but you're much more likely to be trusting of another human being than you were 40 years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, but boy, I'm slow to trust for sure. And I often tell people about, I was bit by a dog when I was a freshman in high school. It was half German Shepherd and half pit bull. And it came up from behind me and it took a gigantic chunk out of the back of my leg. And it doesn't matter that I grew up with German Shepherds and Irish setters and I love dogs. Any dog who comes near me, I have to do a lot to regulate myself and not allow the fear and terror to take over. So it's the same with men. It doesn't matter that I love men. It's going to take time to trust and depend on. Um, yeah. So I'm not going to trust easily and effortless. It's going to have to be proven to me that the person is trustworthy,
Yeah,
just
of
like with the
course.
dog. Yeah.
Of course.
And
But again, you're at a point right now, one, you're aware of it, and
yeah,
two, you're able to navigate through it and discern as opposed to reacting, much
yeah,
more of a response. and a
A lot of the
regulation. Yeah,
time.
yeah, we are certainly evolving and
Yeah.
really, and
There's
again,
a cou
is whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But
I just want
what?
to say also that for me, Rome is thriving, right?
Mhm.
So I was not even surviving, from the time that I was harmed and until I got straight. So, I kind of jumped. I went right from I was harmed, but then I neglected to, right? I mean, I don't know if I was a sex addict, but holy moly, did I use sex as a way to escape from reality. I used drugs, alcohol. Yeah, what else? So um sorry, I just saw, is there a way to pause this for 1 second? So yeah, I definitely escaped from reality with drugs and alcohol, to the point of, right, yeah, just bleh. We don't even talk about that really, but um it took a lot of years to let go of that and find all of these other ways that helped me to move out of surviving into thriving. So, and so I call Rome the thriving place. I mean, that's right. We all want to get to where life, we trust life. And, my logo is life will unfold effortlessly and gracefully. I have to do the work, but I trust that. I know it in my bones, even when I don't know where the path's going to go or how it's, one baby step after another. And yeah, that's kind of Rome, right? Just this trusting place.
Well, you are pretty adventurous. So one of the things on Facebook that I was like, wow, is your estate that you had in New Zealand. What took you out to New Zealand?
I did. Well, my daughter was an adult and I wanted to live where I didn't see another human being. Um, and so I sold my massage practice, I sold my car. That's about all I had. And I went off with a foldable, collapsible bike and cycled around the world. And I was specifically looking for a place with green rolling hills and where I didn't hear a freeway and I didn't hear a neighbor. And I'd met maybe 3 people in my life who had told me about life in New Zealand. And so New Zealand was about 6 months into my journey. And yeah, I was only in the country, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and I picked up a real estate guide, and it was a old house with a wraparound porch on 17 acres and a ballroom, and all for less than my neighbor in California paid for his Porsche, right? At that time, it was super, super affordable, and I hadn't hardly any money at all, but yeah, I bought this old property and spent the next 10 years restoring it. And I called it Heaven Under the Moon because it was definitely heaven. And it was, yeah, I learned how to hang my laundry on a laundry line, and I learned to raise chickens and chop their heads off and gut them and cook them. And I could skin and butcher a sheep or a goat or a turkey. And yeah, it was a great life. It was rural living, and I was a townie and I didn't know anything. So I made lots and lots of mistakes. I raised pigs and had it smoked into bacon. And yeah, I ended up selling real estate because the people who came for massages would trade me deer antlers or some hamburger meat or something. And I had to figure out a way to earn money if I was going to stay there. But yeah, I love nature, and seclusion and privacy. I'm going to add to this list of things that have helped me become who I am. And the Enneagram, I always think of my tools in my toolbox and, self knowledge, right? So for me, knowing who I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. So a derogatory term is a boss. A, a nicer term is a protector, right? So I will always protect the underdog because I was the one who was harmed, right? And so anyways, we live in these different places, and then under stress we go to another point on the circle, and that is, for me, it's number 5, and I need to go in and gain knowledge and read books and lick my wounds, and then when I feel secure, which is where I believe I live a lot now, is a 2, and that's the caregiver, right? And that's where I am as a massage therapist. I have taken care of and cared for people for 34 years. But knowing that, about myself and what I need for self-care, right? And so for me, oof, um, hearing birds and seeing green and rain and moss and growing my own vegetables and yeah, that feeds me and I need alone time as much as I love human beings. I'm happy. I'm happy alone and quiet and in nature and um yeah, that's what feeds me and fills me up and then gives me sustenance to be able to go out and care for and love up other human beings.
Yes, which I guess it's now appropriate to talk about how you do that so well, how you do that well. So, folks, all this leads up to where she is right now. She's launching a nonprofit called Brave Voices, and again, I this is a big part of where I see her thriving.
Mhm.
This is definitely all the moments have led up to this, at least from the outside in. Would you agree that the good, the bad, the ugly has brought you to being
Yeah,
the person
right?
you are today,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
person who's
Yeah.
a caregiver with a huge heart?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I still do earn my living as a massage therapist. I hope someday to be supported to work full time for Brave Voices. I hope that people will see the value in what it is that I and Brave Voices is doing and make donations. That is for sure. That's my hope. Um, and I do want to say that in 1994, I cycled across the United States speaking out against childhood sexual abuse. Um, during COVID is when I started Brave Voices, and a friend had asked me to cycle with him across the country. And then he decided he actually wanted to be a me instead of a we. And then I decided, gosh, I don't have to sit on a stupid little hard seat again for 2 months of my life. I can do this over the internet. So, yeah, Brave Voices um, speak up to protect children, right? So the premise is silence perpetuates childhood sexual abuse. And so it's helping people think, listen, learn, and connect around the prevention of childhood sexual abuse. So for those who were harmed sexually, um, I interview them on Archive StoryCorps. So we have a community page on StoryCorps, Archive StoryCorps, called Brave Voices. And so I want to hear their lived experience. Many, many people have never shared what happened to them. And I know very well that most people, when they hear me say this, are going to say, "Are you crazy? I'm not telling anybody what happened." And that we have so much shame and fear, and there's so many reasons not to tell anybody what happened to them. And gosh, for the people that have chosen to share, um, they describe a lightness and a release of a burden and letting go. And So the that's only one opportunity for Brave Voices, is to share. And what's so important for me is that, the numbers are 1 out of 3 girls, 1 out of 5 boys will be harmed before they're 18, right? There's actually more human beings who have been harmed sexually as children than there are children with every form of cancer, right? Look how much trillions and billions of dollars are put into, and this is of course needed to find out and help childhood cancers, but more human beings are harmed sexually than have cancer. And where's the funding? Where's the so anyways, the vision of Brave Voices is that someday it will be as big as Me Too and Black Lives Matter, and that we will come together and we will close down the streets, and we're going to rebel until it's zero friggin' tolerance. And it's going to be by using our voices. So one way is for people to break their own cycle of silence. And so on the Archive StoryCorps Brave Voices page, which you can find on Brave Voices, my story from start to finish is recorded there. And it helps others to know, that there's a shared reality that other people have been harmed. And so for those who are not ready to share their lived experience, they can hear other people's experiences. And what's so important for me is that every interview goes into the Library of Congress, into the folk life section of the Library of Congress. And so for all those numbers, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5, those are only recorded accounts. So if you make a police report, those numbers come about. But none of the Brave Voices I've interviewed had a police report done, right? So the real numbers are so much higher than what's recorded. And so by all of us breaking our silence, sharing our lived experience, it's going to be documented. There's going to be proof of the epidemic problem that there is. So that's one aspect of Brave Voices. And then there's a whole section on learn. So for those people who are parents or grandparents, there's lots of role plays and videos of how the heck do we break the cycle of silence by teaching our children about this problem, right? How do we talk to other parents before play dates? So there's heaps and heaps and heaps of information on the learn section. And then I will just say that the bravest of brave of our Brave Voices are those who were harmed sexually and went on to harm others sexually. So it is a cycle of harm, and we want to break that cycle. So there is no blame, there's no witch hunting, there's compassion and empathy for every human being who was harmed. And we're trying to even find compassion and empathy for those who went on to harm others, because yeah, it's not about condemning or throwing anybody in jail. It's about, gosh, what can we learn from this, from those who went on to harm others? What possessed them? And anyway, so that takes a whole lot of courage for somebody to who did harm others to share that. Anyway, so that's a taste of Brave Voices. And my passion comes, if one little child is protected and not harmed, I'm happy about that, right? Because I hurt and suffered so much, right? I mean, and not only me, my child, right? I was a mother at 17 years old, and I was never there for my daughter as much as a child needs a mother to be there, right? I was working, I was putting myself through university at the very young age as I was stoned and drunk, right? I stopped all that when I got divorced when she was 4, but, it just, you know, she I anyways, it's just, so many people are harmed in our yeah, it just goes on and on and on. And what's so interesting, I decided in starting this that I was going to start close to home by interviewing those in my family. And so I had 2 sister-in-laws who were harmed, one by 4 different family members, and another one that I'm getting ready to interview in a couple of weeks was harmed by her father, and actually went on to care for him at the end of his life. And so that's going to be a super interesting interview because how do you find forgiveness for somebody who harmed you sexually as a child, right? So that's what it's all about. And my goal is it's not just me interviewing people. I ask everybody that I interview to go on and interview 2 others, right? So we're all breaking the cycle. So, you know, anybody who was harmed can ask anybody that they love and trust to interview them. So on the Brave Voices site is questions that I'm most interested in as a massage therapist. Coming back to the body, all of us who are harmed, hands down, are going to have it manifested in the body in some way, right? Migraines, stomach aches. It goes on and on and on of how we internalize it. And so just learning that, look at all these human beings that had physical challenges. We know the ACEs score. And so I don't want other future generations. I want fewer and fewer people in our future generations to experience the negative ramifications of being sexually harmed. So
Yeah.
I just trust that by all of us getting comfortable learning how to talk about this openly, it will lead to fewer people being harmed.
Yes, I think again, it's such an epidemic. It's kind of like, where do you begin? But again, it's just in anything in life, if you can at least express thoughts and feelings on it, you're one step closer to a solution. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean necessarily just even a series of conversations that's going to change it, but you know, I really, again, my hypothesis from observations myself personally and on others is we don't feel safe. This started Dr. Gabor Mate, if anybody's ever heard his work
Yes. Mhm.
with addictions and such. It's not
Yeah.
the reason for the addiction. It's like, why the pain? Well, again, that's just, the addiction is an obvious consequence of a person trying to control and calm that those thoughts and feelings that are with them. Then again, we talked about earlier about needing to be released in a healthy, regulated way with a professional. Again, there's so many people that, gosh, it's so common. We did that's What do you mean? That's just the way everybody is. Well, unfortunately, that's probably true, but that doesn't mean it needs to be that way, or it should continue, or there isn't something we can do about this. And I guess on the theme of communication, and one of the other things that I've been quite impressed getting to know a little bit more about you, what you do, is nonviolent communication as well. For those in the audience, I had never heard about nonviolent communication before I was reconnected with Cheryle. So some of our listeners may not know about it either. Could
Yeah.
you share with our friends a little bit about nonviolent communication?
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Marshall Rosenberg invented it. Um, and he's no longer alive. And what I do want to put a plug in for is Grok cards, GROK. It's a deck of feelings and needs. And that's how easy and simple nonviolent communication is learning what the heck are we feeling? And what do we value? What do we long for? What do we care about? And the beautiful thing is every human being on this earth have the same core needs. Um, and, for safety and security and to be heard and to be seen. Um, and for me, oh my gosh, right? I mean, I- as a child, if I had feelings, I would be told, "Oh, suck in that bottom lip, you're gonna step on it," or "You are just too sensitive." It wasn't okay to cry or have feelings, and I was a girl. I can't imagine how hard it was for our generation of boys, right? And, so anyways, I flip through all the cards and figure out I did it today, it was like, what is going on inside of me? Because, right, it's so complicated. I can often have 15 or 20 different feelings spread out on the table, right? And then it's like, what is it that I'm longing for? And, maybe yeah, just for me, there's always the physical. I just always want to be held, which is not always easy because that often takes another human being. And but physical contact, right? And but often it's just to be heard. And um so it's our responsibility to meet those needs, but we can ask for help, right? I could call a friend and say, "Oh my gosh, I just can you give me 20 minutes of just holding me? Can I run um but, so it's that simple. Every single thing we say and do is to meet a need. So, when somebody harms somebody sexually, what is that person trying to fulfill? What needs or longings, right? And we want to demonize and we want to make that person who harms other children as an enemy image. But you know what? Very often it could be a human being that just does not know how to ask for what they want. Maybe they've never learned how to ask out a woman, or um, to be able to honestly express themselves of, wow, I find you really interesting. I would love to go on a date with you, right? So communication skills are vital, and raising our children to know what's alive inside their hearts, and to be able to share that, right? We have to create safe spaces where we give people the grace to express, right? There's so much political correctness that, we don't dare say anything because it may offend somebody. And, authentically being who we are. And yes, there will be ramifications. Other people will be impacted, but, we're still going to be authentic and share our hearts. And it's not always easy for somebody else to hear. So anyways, there's a little acronym, oftener. So we talk from observations rather than judgments, right? And so I see that you're wearing glasses rather than you're a dork with those bottle glasses on or something. um and it's amazing how we all judge, our brains judge something's good or bad rather than the wind blew over the tree, right? I mean, and so we speak from observations, and you know, just focusing on that for a year of our life will take us very, very far. Just to catch ourselves every time we make a judgment rather than an observation. The light is on right now, not that it's too bright or it's a blaring color. The light's on. So, and the way that we work on that is anything that can be heard or seen if we were having a video recorder of it. That is an observation. Um, so we observe oftener. Um, OF, feelings. What are we feeling? What's alive inside of us? And figuring that out. That's a big ask. OFNR, needs. What is it? And when we say needs, it's not, I need you to clean your room. It is universal needs of safety, to be seen, to be heard. And these Grok cards, and actually there's free Grok app on iPhones that you can get. And if you just Grok the word, you'll get so many sheets of feelings and needs. But printing one off and having them is really, it has been helpful for me. I mean, it's like learning a new language. Um, So OFNR, observations, feelings, needs, and requests. And requests are not demands. Requests are asking. We're perfectly open to hearing a no. And it's not just asking for something, but it might be asking, like, Randy, I'm super curious to know how you think this podcast is going. uh so we're checking in so that we have connection, because if one person just talks, the other person could often have no interest. They're gone. They're right. It's a give and a take, and so we want connection requests. How do you feel hearing me say that? I'm really curious. How did that land with you? So, that's about as simple as it is. And, I've been studying it since 2011, and it's 2023. And I'm close to becoming a certified trainer through nonviolent communication. But it's about living it, and awareness, and that takes a lot of work. It's just learning what a strategy is, right? I mean, I bypass feelings and go right to how do we solve this problem? And, but if we're doing that with another human being, they don't feel gotten, right? We all want to feel known. And so by reflecting back what we hear somebody say, then, before saying whatever it is that we're thinking or wanting to share, right? That way the other human being knows, they heard me, they get it, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
Mhm.
the needs are inner needs. So a lot of times when I've heard people speak about needs, well, yeah, I need shelter, I need food, I need money to pay for these things, I need a job, long list of the things that we talk about we need, and then there can be stuff that seems kind of frivolous when it's not personal, like I need a new phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, yeah, these have, again, value to them. Obviously, again, there's the first ones mentioned and stuff are part of survival, but maybe even more important than having food and shelter is what you've just discussed, those inner needs. If you
Mhm.
don't feel safe, you are going to go about unhealthy ways to feel safe. And unfortunately, at least my observation is that means usually trying to dominate and control and manipulate people.
Mhm.
Because if the opposite of that, if I feel things are out of control and I feel I am being dominated and manipulated and stuff, I don't feel safe. So again, it's better to be the the persecutor than to be the prey kind of
Mm.
stuff. Again, I mean, this is
Yeah.
subconscious kind of stuff, learned behaviors that we learn from growing up in our
Mhm.
developmental years, but it was reinforced over the course of our lives. But yeah, then also, of course, the venture, we need to have variety in life.
Yeah.
There's
Autonomy.
certainly
Mhm.
and it's, again, it's kind of confusing. It's like, okay, I want safety and I want security, but I can't, yeah, I don't want anything to fit in a box. A box is boring.
Yeah.
Even if you like vanilla ice cream more than chocolate, every now and then you got to try something new. Otherwise, life, it's apathetic.
Yeah. And
And
so
then
what's
then again, when you talk about being heard,
yeah.
that
So what
that's
what
significance, being valued. And I'm sorry, I'm speaking over you.
no, 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 no. I want to interject that conflicts arise when we have when we have different needs, right? So you may be having a need for privacy, and I'm having a need for reassurance, right? And or fun and play. So I'm saying, come on, let's go play frisbee, and you're needing rest and relaxation, and you just need to take a nap, right? So that is where conflicts happen. So if we are aware of that, it's not a bad person. We just, we don't want to ever, from duty or obligation, say, okay, fine, Cheryl, I'll go play frisbee with you. Because then there is gonna be resentment. Somebody always pays when we do things out of duty and obligation. So, the first thing is you being honest and Cheryl, I would love to play frisbee with you, but I'm exhausted and I need a nap. can we check back maybe 2 or 3 hours from now? I may be up from my nap. And then if you still want to go play Frisbee, let's check in then. Right. And then, you were my strategy for fun and play. But now I have to think, maybe my dog will want to go play Frisbee with me. Or maybe I can go down the street and go door knocking until I find somebody who wants to go play Frisbee with me. Right. So
Yep.
just that little tidbit was so helpful. I mean, I think marriages and relationships, right? If we could just learn that, right? It's not, there's no convincing, there's just accepting, right? Because that's what you need right now. And this is what I need. So I'm going to have to find a different strategy to get my need met. And maybe you're going to have to shut the blinds and put in some earplugs because we're going to be running around and making so much noise outside. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's so fun. It's really, really fun. And all of Brave Voices is under the premise of nonviolent communication. So if we can learn to talk about this through observations, through our feelings, through our needs, and make requests, I believe it's going to be a whole lot easier to talk about a difficult subject.
Yes. And that's the thing. We've never been taught how to have the tough conversations.
Nope.
At least, again, you and I haven't. Again, we kind of went to the same school system, but in general, at least here in North America, there's, to the best of my knowledge, it's never been part of whether it's been in the public school system, private school system, or even in the family.
Yep.
That talking this way and observing our own selves, again, the self-knowledge, the self-awareness.
Yeah.
That, right now I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
And to be able to speak about it in a way that is not, again, confrontational, probably be the best word that comes to mind right now. It's like, no, again, if you have that state of being where this isn't good or bad, this is just how it is. And it's for myself, it's almost like third person. It's not personal anymore. Okay. Yeah. I can talk in a third person. Yeah. Randy right now is tired.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything other than that.
And we don't have control. Our feelings. How do I describe this? Our feelings. Nobody can argue with how we feel. If I'm feeling sad right now, you can't tell me, sure, how could you possibly feel sad when you have fresh flowers and chocolate? So there's no arguing. And that what I want to really highlight is that we as human beings will never put ourselves in difficult, uncomfortable positions unless we care enough about the cause. So I'm asking people to think, listen, learn, and connect around the prevention of childhood sexual abuse. It's a tough subject. It's something that people want to turn away from. And I'm asking them to lean in. I'm asking them to get curious. And so it's, how do we put ourselves in discomfort intentionally? And I do believe through this communication system, it's going to be a little easier to do that.
Yeah.
But we also have to care more about future generations of children. We have to care more about protecting children than we do our discomfort that we're in right now. So if we can get comfortable thinking, listening, and learning about this, speaking about the subject, our children are never going to have to go through that. Through the evolution, they're going to grow up thinking, this is something we can talk about. They will never have the discomfort because it's openly discussed.
Yeah. And if you could have this tough discussion, then think about all the other things are that much easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, the difficult things of, I feel like right now you're trying to tell me that I don't feel this way. Okay. That's an important conversation. And again, to do it in a manner that's respectful, to yourself and to other person. But yeah, if you can talk about something, oh God. I
But
mean,
let me
again,
just,
I have to confess, it is a very uncomfortable thing for me to think about child sexual abuse. I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's probably the most heinous thing on this planet.
yep,
But on the other hand, and stuff, yeah, if it's just never ever talked about and stuff, it's the most, it's obvious thing is it's going to perpetuate.
exactly.
Sexual trafficking,
Yep,
sex slaves, and such are
yep,
not just something that happens elsewhere. It
yep,
happens in every neighborhood.
yep.
And yeah, again, I wish I could give you a 5-step plan on how to solve it. I don't think anybody does. But again, it seems, to the best of my understanding, this is what you've been talking about, Cheryl, is at
Yeah.
least the beginning of it, that we could move one step closer to a solution where somebody says, no, actually, this is probably the most realistic and sustainable way for us to deal with this epidemic.
Let's at least talk about it. And it's complex. It's not black and white. There's no easy solutions. So let's talk about that too. Let's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Yeah. Humans do, at least this human doesn't like to talk about being powerless and we really don't have a solution and such. But again, if we don't, then it's obvious, it's inevitable there'll never be one. But yeah, one conversation leads to the next one. Good questions lead to better questions. And the next thing you know, you're like, well, okay. And certainly if just one child can not have this, that again, as you've just shared so courageously, again, not to have these occurrences in their life, it won't affect them for decades. It's just one child of all the humans you interact with over the course of your lifetime, that again, this abuse has affected how you relate to other humans. If that wasn't present with you, all those interactions would, of course, been different. I couldn't say how they would have been different, but they would have been different. And probably because you felt safe, they would have been much more, I don't know, productive, meaningful, better, kind of stuff. So overall, the society, to improve the quality of our society, just one life can make a difference. And again, is what you're doing here is, again, through all your years and years of discipline, of healing, the breath work, the meditation, the talk therapy, everything that you've done in these interviews here and working with others and such, is evidence that there can be a change, that there can be something that's not just for the individual, but it can reverberate. And again, if you're going through something difficult, know that again, your healing is not just for you. It's going to affect future generations. It's going to affect those immediately around you right now. It's
so
it's hard,
like,
but it's worth it, is what I wanted to end with. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
definitely. No. I just wanted to say that I had this imagining that if my brother who was harmed sexually, who harmed me, would have been able to talk to his wife and let him know what had happened to him, she would have shared with him about the 4 different people who harmed her, right? And maybe he never would have harmed me. He was married when he harmed me, right? So, as far as talking goes, had my brother and my sister-in-law been able to talk to each other and share their lived experience openly, rather than both of them hiding this and being drunk and stoned, right? I mean, she was in the bed when he harmed me, and she had no memory because she was drunk and stoned, right? And Patricia is, I interviewed her on the archive story course. So on Brave Voices, you can find that and listen to that interview as well. So that's part of breaking the cycle of silence. So if anybody who was harmed can share it with their loved one. I was inspired with Brave Voices by one person who was harmed, raped, and she'd been married for 35 years, never told her husband, never told her children, and through this process has now shared that with them. And it's going to heal. The ripple will just go on and on and on when we shed light on the darkness.
Yeah.
And then we're fully known by others as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Which
all
again,
good.
yeah, it's a human need. We need to be seen. We need to be
And
understood, at least at a level where we feel connection.
yeah, and
And that's what
accepted
makes
for
worth
who
it.
we are. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
for
that's,
me,
again, when I was making comments earlier about your ability to trust, at least you trust to make yourself seen and heard. You're courageous enough. It doesn't mean necessarily that they know all the things about you, but you're navigating life with a lot less defensiveness than someone who hadn't gone through this work. And
yeah.
that means the likelihood of having connections and that thriving in life. Odds are
Mhm.
more in your favor of having a life of abundance and, oh gosh, prosperity of
Definitely.
friends. Oh, and wonderful
Definitely, as far as going
experiences.
back to the easier ways, if we know what we need, if I can say, Randy, I need some reassurance that I didn't come across as a complete idiot in this podcast. Can you just tell me, how was it? How did I, then I get some reassurance, so we want to learn to ask for what it is that we need. And for many of us who say, "What? I don't need any reassurance." Even the word need, right? I'm not needy. I need nothing. I need no one. Guess what? Interdependence, we need each other. Yeah. And so, I mean, just for how long it took me to get my head around how much I need reassurance. So now if I'm feeling insecure, I can ask somebody, oh my gosh, I just whatever it is, I'm feeling really old and wrinkled. Do you find me attractive in any way at all today? And whatever it is, we can ask for it. So it's really beautiful. But it takes a lot
Yep.
to yeah, to be able to ask others for what we need. Just asking, right? That's a biggie. That our worthiness. Are we worthy enough to ask somebody for some affection or time to ask somebody to go out on a date that's, use their time. Anyways, we could go on forever on this.
Well, maybe
Um,
we'll have another session. This has been wonderful. And if you've listened to this and enjoyed it, please comment below your thoughts, your feelings. Also, I would like to encourage you to reach out to Cheryle and let her know what your thoughts and feelings were about what she shared today. If you'd like to be involved with Brave Voices, anything at all, I can assure you what you see is what you get. What you've just heard over the last about an hour here is something that you encounter with her one-on-one as well. So if somebody wanted to contact you, how would they do so?
yeah, the website is www.bravevoices.org. And it is a tax deductible 501c3 nonprofit. So if you want to support the work of Brave Voices, there's a donation page. Please do that. Please check out all of the pages and see what you can find for there's so much, as a single mom, I did not have very much money at all. I was never owned a home, and so everything on Brave Voices is free and accessible to all. So there's links to where to have some nonviolent communications. Dr. Yvette Erasmus is an amazing therapist who teaches nonviolent communication and so much else. And she offers a free Wednesday morning 8 to 9:30 Zoom class, and there's links to that. There's so much free, amazing links to where to get help to learn how to communicate and ask for what we need. So that's all on bravevoices.org. And if anybody wants to contact me directly, it's bravevoicesspeakup@gmail.com. Bravevoicesspeakup@gmail.com.
I'll put the links in the comments or the description of the podcast below for as well.
All
So
right.
if you happen to be driving your car and you couldn't write this stuff down.
That's right.
But again, thank you so much for sharing some of your time with us today, Cheryle. Again, I enjoyed it greatly. And thank you, friends, for tuning in and listening. Until we meet again next time, take care. Peace be with you.